Hey, how's it going? It's Kire here with another Raid Shadow Legends video. In today's video, I want to talk about we just got 12 new champions, just got released. Some of them are pretty good, and so I wanted to go over them. So we got 2 new legendaries, a few more epics, about 5 epics, a few rares, and 1 uncommon. So 12 total. One of them is actually like pretty nuts in arena. So let's go over them. First one is Crypt King Grawl. Okay, so he's an undead support. Like balanced stat lineup. His A1 is attacks when enemy has a 60% chance of placing a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. Scaling it up doesn't increase the chance at all. Is a super good proc rate for his A1 on a decreased attack. That's super good for clan boss. Just a really good A1 in general. And then his A2 is attacks 3 times at random. Has a 50% chance of placing an HP burn debuff for 2 turns. That's pretty solid as well. It is on a 4-turn cooldown. Could go down to a 3-turn. So it's solid. And then his A3 is places a freeze debuff on each target for 1 turn if they are under an HP burn debuff. Extends the duration of any HP burn debuffs to 3 turns. This effect cannot be resisted. So I believe it's the second part that cannot be resisted. So places a freeze debuff if they're under an HP burn. Okay, so it's, you know, he would actually be hilarious with Ignatius. So he extends the duration, like for Spider, if you have him and Ignatius, that would actually be kind of hilarious. So because you place a freeze debuff on each target that are under an HP burn. So he goes first, HP burns everyone, he freezes all the spiders. I don't know, I think that could be pretty funny. But, you know, it takes 2 legendaries plus this new one. So I think he's okay. Yeah, you know, like the combination of HP burn and attack down is pretty good. Also, it's on a pretty good proc rate. So I think he's solid. And so the next legendary, I think this guy's nuts. He's a void legendary. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's like he's a Digimon, apparently. He's Hegemon. So you got void legendary, attack hero, decent stats, kind of slow, but you know, like that, which you'll find doesn't matter with his passive here. It's always goes first each round. If multiple Hegemons are in battle, the Hegemon with the highest speed will move first, followed by the next highest, and so on. So he just counters, and so let's go over his A1 and A2. So attacks 2 times at random. Each hit has a 35% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. And then his A2 is attacks all enemies, places a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. Also has a 50% chance of placing a block cooldown skills for 2 turns. So essentially, he's like the Rush Guard the Tower counter, where he goes first, blocks the cooldowns, decreases the attack of everyone. Nothing you can do about it unless you also pulled a void legendary. So super good for arena. If you pull this guy, he's insane. He's absolutely insane in my opinion. I do want to see how hard he hits, but it doesn't really matter. Like even if you don't get the block cooldowns, you completely neuter them with the 50% decreased attack. It is a debuff though, so you got to run pretty high accuracy. Still could resist. Still very good, especially if it hits pretty hard. And so now let's go over the new epics. I want to do them in order of the list. So let's go back here. Okay, so we got Basilisk here. He's Force, Lizardman, and then base off attack, kind of lowish base attack. But okay, so his A1 is attacks all enemies, places a 25% increased attack buff on this champion for 2 turns if this attack is critical. And then his A2 is attacks when enemy places a stun debuff for 1 turn. And then revive this champion to 30% HP when killed and places a block damage buff for 1 turn. So I think he's actually kind of solid. I can see him being like a decent character for, you know, dungeons. If you need a character that off affinity, like you're struggling versus magic, you get a guy AoEs everything, Didn't set on character. Even if he dies, he comes back. Like he's nothing crazy, but he's not. I don't think he's bad. I wish it was, a 50% increase attack instead of the 25, but him applying it on himself, I could see why they did that. I don't know. I think he's okay. Solid okay character. Next here we got Golden Reaper, then a Void Epic. See how good it is. Super high base speed, 111 base speed. Support so like not crazy attack, kind of balanced, but the base speed is insane. And then A1 is attacks when enemy has a 30% chance of decreasing the cooldown of one of a there's a typo. Radum's Radum allies skills by 1 turn. Attacks all enemies, has a 50% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns. Decreases the turn meter of each target by 20% if they are not under a decreased attack debuff. I think he's already super good. Like I would want to take this person on high end dungeons. Just super good move there. And then lastly, places a 30% increase speed buff on all allies for 2 turns and boosts their turn meter by 20%. So, and has a better than Apothecary speed boost. It's a 20% turn meter increase compared to 15. 3-turn cooldown if you book her. So I think she's super good. This character's super good. Like Apothecary is still better in Clan Boss for sure, but I'd totally take this chick. Well, and if you don't have a decreased attack on your team, so I think she's very good. You're super rare. Like Void Epics. Good luck pulling that, but really good. Occult Brawler. He's in the Organ Tribes, based on HP. Pretty decent high base there. So then we got, looks like 2 moves that are passive. So A1 is attacks when enemy has a 50% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns. It's okay, only because it's a 1 hit. 50% is pretty good, proc rate for a poison on a basic. But it only being a 1 hit is kind of a bummer, and it goes up to 60%. So, and then his A2 is attacks one enemy. If this champion is under 1 or more debuffs, this attack ignores 30% of enemy defense. If this champion is under 2 or more debuffs, enemies killed by the skill cannot be revived. If this champion is under 3 or more debuffs, this attack is always critical. If this champion is under 4 or more debuffs, this champion heals by 30% of the damage inflicted. If this champion is under 5 or more debuffs, grants an extra turn. Removes all debuffs from this champion after an attack. Okay, this is just them trolling. This has to just be them trolling. But hey, if you're ever like, what was this? This would be Spider. So you make sure the spider, all the little spiders hit you, and then you get 5 or more debuffs, and you get all this stuff. I think that could be funny if you actually, pull that off. But that's the only scenario. Maybe Dragon, that's another example. Void Keep, that's another example with a whole bunch of debuffs. So, it could be funny. Depends on how hard he hits. We'll never know. We'll never know until we actually try him. And then his passive is places a 2.5% poison debuff on this champion for 2 turns at the start of each turn. Has a 70% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff on a random enemy for 4 turns at the start of each turn. Huh. That's cool. So he debuffs himself, but then also gives 5% every turn. Huh. He's very interesting. I want to see him in action. So even if he's not good, he is still, they're getting creative at least, and I like that. Okay, so then next we got Pitless One, who's another epic out of Night Revenant. So A1 is attacks one enemy 2 times, just super basic. And then A2 is attacks all enemies. Each critical hit boosts this champion's turn meter by 15%. So if you do this on mobs, if you have 100% crit rate, it's essentially just give yourself a bonus turn. And then his passive is each critical hit heals this champion by 15% of the damage inflicted. And then he has an aura of increased ally crit rate in all battles by 19%. Nothing to write home about. Pretty good attack, just like base attack. Very slow base speed. And see him maybe in arena. Like you just boost him up. He crits everyone. So what would that be? That'd be 60%. Gives himself 60% turn meter. Yeah, it depends on how hard he hits. For sure. If he hits really hard, if he just has like high base damage, then I can see him being okay. Guarantees a free turn against like Spider. I don't know. I'm not really sold on this guy. The cooldown's too long in this move. It pretty much the whole kit relies on this this move here. So, and it's on a 4-turn, 3-turn at best. I'm not too much of a fan of this guy. Kind of a edgy looking model. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something, but it just seems kind of meh. Oh, the next one's in Barbarians. Okay, and then next is Saqqara. It's a Barbarian, another magic affinity, support base, decent speed. Okay, attacks when an enemy fills this champion turn meter by 25% if this attack is critical. It's okay. Yeah. And then next is A2 attacks all enemies 3 times. Each hit has a 40% chance of removing 1 random buff from the target. I can see her being good in arena with that. And then her A3 is, I can see that good in arena, good in dungeons. And then her A3 is attacks all enemies, has a 60% chance of placing a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns. And then her passive is revives this champion with 75% HP when killed. And then only available when her homies on the team. Alika. Okay, and she has the same passive. Revives this champion when they're killed. I'm not too big of a fan of those type of passives. It's just fun synergy. I like that they're revived. They actually have a high amount of HP. Since they're ignoring defense and they're reviving, I feel like these are just very arena focused characters. Like defense shredding is so much better in arena than it is like clan boss. They all attack like yeah, they just seem like pretty high bursty AoE characters, and they have like revives on each other. Arena, if anything, I think the new character should be pretty good in dungeons as well, with the weaken and the attacks 3 times, removes buffs. So pretty solid. Okay, so next kicking up the rears, we got Adjudicator here. See how good this kit is. I'm hoping that they actually give some good rares. So we got her A1 is attacks when enemy has a 20% chance of placing a 50% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns. So it's kind of nice. Attacks when enemy has a 50% chance of decreasing turn meter by 20%. And then A3 is attacks 2 times at random, has a 90% chance of increasing the cooldown of one of the target skills by 2 turns at random. And then just a whole bunch of accuracy in battles. Might help with some dungeons if you're like super free to play. You need like the heal reduction, stuff like that. Just kind of like okay utility out of a rare. Okay, so we got Crimson Slayer, another rare in Night Revenant. So her A1 is attacks 3 times at random. So you got a 3 hit on her A1. Each hit has a 30% chance of placing a sleep debuff. So pretty cool. That's a 3 hit. Let's see the rest of her kit. And then her A2 is attacks one enemy, has a 70% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 50%. Fills this champion's turn meter equal to the amount of the target loss. And then her A3 is attacks all enemies, has an 80% chance of placing a 50% heal reduction debuff for 1 turn. She almost sold me on the 3 hit on the A1, but there's no utility behind it. It's just a 3 hit. And then like turn meter reduction, like the 3 hit was telling me like, oh, she's gonna be good in clan boss, but then it's a sleep debuff, which doesn't do anything. The turn meter reduction would be cool if she was like doing other stuff, like applying a debuff, like defense down. Maybe she put defense up. Maybe, you know, just something. But all of her utility, like the heal reduction, she could be good on Fire Knight. You know, she has the 3 hit. She has the turn rate reduction. She has the heal reduction. I can see that. I can see her being used there, and she's a rare. That's really cool. So there's like actual legitimate use out of her. Okay, and so then Dark Elves got another Void rare. And then the A1 is attacks one enemy 2 times, has a 30% chance of placing a 15% weaken debuff for 2 turns. Okay, you know, that's not amazing, but not bad. And then attacks one enemy, has a 80% chance of placing a block buffs debuff for 2 turns. On a 3-turn cooldown already. You don't even have to skill it, which is kind of cool. And then attacks one enemy, has a 90% chance of increasing the cooldown of one of the target skills by 2 turns at random. I don't know, it just seems okay. It just provides decent utility. It's like nothing insane, but nothing like crazy bad. You know, just solid character. And then the last rare is in the Bannerlords, another Void. It's Vanguard. Attacks one enemy, has places a 30% decreased defense debuff for 1 turn if the target's defense is lower than this champion's. Scales up attack, but she's a defense character he's a defense character that scales off attack. I already don't like him. And then that's just not a good move on the A1. And then attacks one enemy, places a provoke debuff for 1 turn if this target is under a decreased defense debuff. And then decreases the duration of all buffs on the attacker when hit. I just think this character's garbage. But, alright. So that's it for the rares. And then lastly, our last guy is Thrasher in Organ Tribes. Let's see how good. Oh, man. Already super promising. So we got a 1-hit, attacks 1 enemy. And we got his A2 is attacks 1 enemy, has a 15% chance of placing a blocks buffs debuff for 2 turns. So pretty much the showstopper right here. This character's nuts. Oh, I wanted to also touch on the tournament. I think the tournament's an actual joke. It's like the rewards are insanely bad. And you gotta open a lot of shards, like a lot. Like, so I just had a sacred shard and 2 ancients, and I only got up to tier 3 of it, and then for some reason it's not loading, but I want to show my leaderboard. My some dude already has 7,000. Like on my, it's just insane to me. So hopefully you guys are in a good, tournament. All right, guys. Well, finished it up right before server maintenance. Really good timing. If you like content like this, please consider subscribing, and I hope you guys have a good day. Peace.